I am back at the old commission arc. I'm doing another VIVEK Headland piece, but you know, I don't like to repeat myself, so I'm going to do. If you've been watching before, you would have seen me do. Actually, the first streaming I did this year was a VIVEK piece. But I do want to try something a little different, so I think I might do a little watercolour on this one again, like last week, because I haven't done that before. You can see if anybody hasn't tuned in before, make sure you let me know, because I can explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Otherwise, I tend to just kind of draw and not talk. And I actually like talking during these because it keeps me occupied. And forgive any sniffles you might hear, because I was coughing a little bit last week. As it turned out, I totally caught a cold, and I was in bed sick for a week. In the future, no one will be able to control the whole of the world around on a It was quiet this week. Just in case anyone is new and is too shy to say anything. So essentially, I always start whenever I do commission. I do tend to just map out the halves. One, just to make it less intimidating, because an empty sheet of paper is actually quite intimidating, but also it helps me think about composition straight away. This is a little obvious because it's very straight on composition, but sometimes I might like keep it here or keep it there, or you know, I'm going a bit more obvious with this one. Now I work with a regular pencil, a HB, and I'll do all my basic drawing with the HB pencil. And then what I'll do is take this rubber and I'll very lightly just rub out a lot of the kind of hairy, very leady pencil work, because it'll get pretty smudgy otherwise. But I don't know if you can see, it's all pretty much still there. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see, it's all still there. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to drop my pencil, pick it back up, see, it's fine, don't worry. And I'm going to start doing more detailed penciling with this. It's also a HB, but it's a technical pencil. So let's see now. I melted chi. Melted chi. Thanks for tuning in. If you've missed live streams before, melted chi, I've started putting them, taking these, saving them, and putting them up on YouTube. So feel free to look there. But yeah, if you have any, like, if you're live and everything, and you have any questions or anything, work away. Yeah, I'm not sure how you'll find them on YouTube. I guess if you search my name, I have like 3 videos up there, 3 previous commissions I did. I'll probably put another one up tonight. This one, I think I'll try put whatever I do up the following week. Oh, hi, Cassie. Oh, yeah, actually, if you don't mind. Thanks, Mike. Mike's in the room here. He's going to link you to the YouTube page. Where are you airport-wise, Cassie? Are you going? Where are you going? Where after? Where you been? Minsk, thank you for bringing that, keeping that nickname alive. I appreciate it. Ah, very good. Sure, Gatwick's a fine airport. Yeah, I know the streams disappear on here after a couple of weeks. And it just seemed kind of silly to let them just disappear, except for the one where I publicly badmouthed the writer. That was bad form. I didn't put that one up. At least I don't think so. That would be hilarious if I put up that one. So yeah, this is a commission of VIVEK Headland from my creator-owned book Injection, which, if you do not know of it, I highly recommend you check out. It's written by Warren Ellis, who is essentially a very, 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 very smart writer, and it's kind of this weird sci-fi book we do that I am itching to get back to. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Mike linked to the YouTube thing there in the comments. I don't know why I'm pointing there, because you can't see what I'm looking at. Actually, no, technically that does work. Right there, if you look at the comments. Technology, huh? Ah, oh, Cassie, going to Nando's. Oh, what are you getting? What are you going to get? Genuinely really like Nando's. Half chicken is probably what I would go for. God, I'd love one right now. Now I'm starving. In case anyone's wondering, I'm not just some genius who can draw suits and jackets out of the top. Well, I can out of the top of my head, but I'm just looking at like a reference photo of a man standing, just to catch certain folds. Like it wouldn't be the. If I'm being honest, actually, what I'm looking at is a photo somebody made up of Benedict Cumberbatch as the old style Sherlock Holmes, because it's very much who Vivek is. And I'm using that as a kind of a reference point, basically. It's like the finished drawing won't look like the photo at all, but it gives me a place to kind of start from. I do that a lot with reference, where I just kind of see something that kind of helps me ground the drawing somewhat, which is better than just drawing it completely out of the top of my head, because it'll just get very what's the right word? No, it just doesn't feel grounded appropriately. Grant, Cassie, I'll take over that Nando's. Chi, well, that's good to know. I thought you were just an art wizard. I am very much not an art wizard. I wish I were, but no, I am. I struggle through the day like everybody else. I just cover it up well. I appreciate when artists open about using reference because there is nothing wrong with using it. No, not at all. There's nothing wrong with using reference. There's definitely a stigma about using reference for some reason. But it's what I like to tell some people is when you're drawing, because I meet a lot of people who show me the portfolios and it's clear they just don't know how to draw something. And I have to kind of ask, well, you know, how do you think you're going to get better at it? If you don't know how to do it, you need to, you know, I think the key is, or what I say to people is use reference to inform the drawing, not dictate it, because you see a lot of people do use reference and that dictates the drawing, and that's where you get very kind of like stiff, dull, lifeless. You know, you see it a mile off, people who just use reference way too much. But I mean, I'd show you the photo, but actually, can I, for full transparency, here is, okay, I just put it into the comments, that's the image I'm using. So if you look at the image, and you can see what I'm drawing, you can see how different it is. That's actually interesting, I've never done that before. And if you look at the photo, you will see that his jacket is like this, but I'm going to just kind of push it a little and have his jacket just kind of float out a little bit here, and the same with the shadow. So I hope you can see that this drawing, while has the same overall, like it's the same pose, but you know, the folds aren't exactly the same. The outfit isn't exactly the same. Even like I've really raised his shoulders here more to give his jacket, make his jacket more padded, make it a little slightly bit more Victorian. I wouldn't do this all the time, but I was literally about to start drawing and I hadn't figured out what I was drawing yet, so I looked at that image and go, yeah, I'm going to do something like that. Yeah, does that make sense, Melty? Like, how much of the photo do you think is in that drawing? There certainly is the basic underlying like information is, but you know, the composition is different. I'm taking a different direction. I've changed. I would say the main things I'm getting from this is a rough feeling. And the face is totally different. I would say some of the folds are informing it. The overall, you know, figure shape, and it's informed. You can see how there's a tension in the trousers with where his hands are pulling against the lining here. So it's informing it, but I'm not copying what the photo has. I'm trying to use it to make my drawing more informative. Like, I did a Wolverine piece last week, and you know, I didn't have any reference there at all. You know, so that's a little different. But for characters that are in suits, I always find it a little bit better. Good. I'm glad I can. This can be a little bit illuminating. Where's me? Where's me washboard? These buttons aren't right at all. I'm disappointed Dave Tobin's normally in this. He hasn't. Dave, let me know if you're watching this time. Because I'm playing his band in the background. Hate ball. Cool. Yeah, I hope the ref. I don't always do this. I wouldn't say necessarily see an image and just go right with that. But if I'm drawing, say, a panel in a comic, I've more than likely done the pose myself. Like I'm doing something at the moment, and there's a character in a t-shirt and trousers, and I wore a t-shirt and trousers, and there's another character in a suit, so I put on a suit jacket just to help with like the folds and stuff. Some of this stuff I can just do out of my head, but even at that, I always try and like ground in as much reference as I can. To do Tathanor. What's my most requested commission piece? Bone Armor Moon Knight? Actually, no, I've only gotten that a couple of times. I would say regular suit and tie Moon Knight is the #1 commission I get. Batman's probably next. Commission requests. What did I get a lot of this time? I got 2 Viveks, which is nice. I don't often get injection requests, so I'm actually kind of glad to get those. I'd say maybe Wolverine. I get a few Wolverines. I'm just trying to think what's the most. Yeah, I get a lot of Batmans, which is cool because I like drawing Batman. But yeah, suit and tie Moon Knight is actually the most common one. Then the superhero one, and I would say the bone armor is the least popular one out, I guess. Where are you from, Tathanor and Melted Chi? You haven't, I don't think you've commented before. Also, apologies again for if I'm sniffling. I'm just getting over a cold. Let's say now that reference photo that was there, I'm not even looking at that anymore. The rest of this now will just be me. Pure deck. It just didn't sound right, did it? Scotland. Nice one. Tathanor, we're in Scotland. I used to live in Aberdeen. And Canada, Melted Chi. Cool. Yeah, Tathanor was pointing out that I shared a cover that Art Adams did where like the suit and tie Moon Knight was in it, and yeah, that was pretty class. It's been a cool. There's been a few people who've drawn it that's been amazing. Chris Somney did a commission once. Or did I commission him? I can't remember, but I have the original anyway. But that was class. Tom Fowler did one. Who have I seen? Who else have I seen do it in comics? In actual comics. Wilson Kevich. John Paul Leon, I saw him do a commission. The cool thing was when the book came out, a lot of people who would get really good commissions were getting those that were getting Moon Knight done, and that was pretty cool. Oh, 8 ball 8 in Scotland as well. Nice one. Where in Scotland are you, 8 ball? I shall be in Scotland in March. And I'll be in Drumfurlin. And I will also be at a convention later in the year in Scotland. I don't think I can say yet because I don't think it's been announced. See, I'm trying to figure out what's the best place to put down some marks. I don't want to go too crazy. Glasgow. Nice one. I've only ever been there once actually, but maybe I'll be back. Non-sick cough. I saw when I was living in Aberdeen, I popped over to Glasgow for a day and saw My Bloody Valentine. This is like 15 years ago. It was pretty mad, it's so close, I've only been there once. Oh, Tefnor. Oh, nice one. Okay, that makes sense. We've met before. Sorry, I got my face in the shot there. Stupid hairy face. I'm very guilty around the comic shops now because I've become fully digital and singles with the space saving. Yeah, it's fair enough. Can't really begrudge you that. I kind of have a mix myself. I have a regular comic shop I go to, but I also kind of have some books I'll get digitally. I tend to if it's a book I really really want, I'll wait. Where I know the art's going to be really good. If it's a book I'm just kind of curious about reading, I'll just get it digitally. Yeah, my chance fingers to move to zoom in on this Techland. Can you not do that? I don't know how you're watching. This is a HD camera though, but if you want to have a closer look, this is. Yeah, so this is. So that's how it's looking there. I'm going to rub out a lot of this pencil now because I'm done with it. Oh, cool. Right. Oh, thanks, Bill. Yeah, for the lines, right? Like, I mean, some. For me, I got to remember that the light is hitting it from a certain place. So things on the top should be lighter than the things on the bottom. This line is lighter than that line. I'm not the best inker in the world, but I can, I can ink myself well, I think. Though I realise because I have the shadow here, drawing the line on this side of his face would be a mistake. So I'm going to move it here. I need a tighter pen for his face, though. Where's my... Sorry, I'm just looking for my. I have a thin pen that I use for detail, and I seem to have misplaced it. Oh well, it could be because you work digitally, as a cheap. I mean, I can't give you any better advice because I don't work digitally, so I can't say. But there's you can definitely do things. Set your Photoshop to change like with sensitivity for the line weight to change. I know some people work that way. Tathanor, I'm not an artist. This could be a dumb question, but have I ever considered completely mixing up my style for a project? Your style is very distinctly you, which should be a big part of the draw, but Eminem would draw multiple styles, for example. Yeah, I know some artists who think that you should change up your style every book you do. I disagree. Well, no, it's not that I disagree. It's not for me. I draw how. Sorry, I always have to be quiet when I'm doing like detail like this. And I apologize for my face being in the frame. With this stuff, I always get right up in it. 1 second. Okay. That's what I guess. Sorry, the question about style. To me, style isn't a thing that you can just switch up. It's a continual development. So, I'm going to be back on injection like later this year. I hope that like issue 15 isn't going to look dramatically different to issue 16. I don't think it will because I draw a certain way, but I've developed that over time. I could draw something more cartoony, but what I try to do is implement a level of cartooniness overall into my work rather than doing like a cartoony book. But I don't think there's anything wrong with somebody doing that. I just personally find that it's a very surface. I find style a very I find it very limiting surface level conversation when I think it's to draw a way that really comes from you is something that comes from inside. This is going to sound very wacky, so I apologize. But to me, it's something that you should be developing from inside out rather than outside on. That makes sense? Like Eminem changes his style, but I mean, he still draws the same way. He just kind of makes one book more quote unquote realistic. I personally prefer the stuff he's doing now on his Instagram book, or Next Wave. That's my favorite Eminem. But like, I still love the Spider-Man stuff and the Star Wars stuff. Tooth, hey Tooth, how's it going? Hateball, how does your own style compare with your own taste in other artists? How do you mean? How could you clarify that? I would say compare with my taste in other artists. I mean, I like to think I draw in an inky style. I like to think that I draw in a. I mean, I would say. I mean, the stuff that I like is probably obvious. You can probably guess some of the artists I really like, because they probably are similar style to me. But yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that. Yeah, Melted Tea. That's a good way of. That's very well said. I would agree. I mean, I guess Hateball. I guess it would compare. I'm trying to think how to answer that. How does my style compare with my taste in other artists? Well, okay. I draw on paper. I generally prefer work that's on paper. Like, so there's something. It doesn't mean I only like that. There's certainly people who work digitally that I think are amazingly talented, but I certainly would always prefer stuff that's done on paper. Doesn't mean I only like stuff that that's similar to mine. There's some people I look at their work, I'm like, I have no idea how they do that. There's some who are like, oh, I wish I could do that, and then I try. So I guess it varies. So, for instance, do I like any artist whose style is totally alien to mine and couldn't want to draw it, but you see it and think, yeah, definitely. I would say, so my favorite artists are like JP Leon and Goran Parlon, and I don't think I look like them, but that's definitely something I'm going for. Say Adam Hughes is an artist I think is amazing, but like I don't do what he does, and I don't want to try what he does, but I really, really, really respect it. I think also I grew up a bit, and I think there's sometimes stuff that you don't like or you're not really into, but you can also appreciate like that they're really, really good. I'm trying to think of a big example who wouldn't give a crap if I wouldn't like their stuff. Well, yeah, Hughes is amazing, fantastic pinups. I don't really want to do pinups, but by God, can he do them? I'm trying to think of someone who's really popular that I'm not that into. Oh yeah, Parallels Fury Max. That is my jam. Well, certainly. Like I love Garth Ennis, but it doesn't always work for me unless the art really, really grabs me. I mean, it's always good. It's always more resonant with me if I'm really into the art. Jacob Chancellor. Hey, Jacob. This is your first time commenting here? As an artist, how do I tackle buildings? I've been penciling all my life and have no idea how to make a building look good. Me neither. I know. Buildings are tough for me because they're so like linear and technical, and that's not what I really like drawing. Personally, I've learned how to like find a good way how to suggest buildings, rather than go on the nitty gritty of drawing all the information. If that makes sense. I'm not sure how much. I just kind of figured. I just figured it out. Really, I guess. Like, you know, I don't draw all the information. I try and make sure that, like, something reads clearly as a building. But we'll put it this way: you don't want to make a building look like an exercise in mechanical drawing, and that's very much what I was doing for a long time, and it's why I was struggling. You got to figure out a way to make a building look interesting, and sometimes that might be where you're not drawing, but you're actively choosing not to draw. And I find I often try and, like, especially if there's background information, like if I prefer draw rooftops than the most, like, the side of a building. Again, it's just a bit more interesting. So I just realised I really needed to do more shadow work here before I did the washes. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, Moon Knight was definitely a challenge because, you know, I had to draw buildings, but you know, I definitely drew buildings that I thought were more interesting to draw. Like drawing, like you know, businessy skyscrapers and stuff isn't necessarily more fun to draw. I prefer drawing more dilapidated buildings, stuff with more grit and earth to it. Also, it means you can do like a proper drawing and then fuck it up because there's so much like noise and cracks and dirt and stuff. I really like drawing that. So I like taking like nice things and making them look crap. That is my prerogative. Oh, sorry, I think I missed a couple here. You'd love to do a pin-up one day. I do some pin-up covers too. You know, it depends on what it's called for. Sometimes it's a story thing. Sometimes it's like I did a variant cover recently for one of my favorite characters, and it is completely just a pin-up. I don't find them particularly interesting to do that much, but like now and then it's great fun to do. Sorry, what was I? Yeah, cheesecake. Sorry, more cheesecake ones though. I'm just not into. Sorry. I will also like drawing like sexy ladies is not my strong suit. My early superhero days were very tough because I was drawing lots of like, you know, beautiful women and stuff, and I struggled a lot. Pretty ladies, some people are so good at it, and I am just not one of those people. I think I can do it when I have to for sure, but yeah, it's tougher. But if you need someone to look like crap, I'll draw the hell out of that. Where was I? Tathanor, I did a bunch of cover work last year. I got a few of my Star Wars covers. Is it a decision to get your work in the hands of more people, or did I just fancy a break from interiors? It depends on the time, really. I did do a bunch of cover work. I basically couldn't work for a few months. Just some personal stuff went on, so I wasn't really doing any sequential work at the time. But I was still taking on some covers. I don't know if I was doing Star Wars covers at that time, but it depends. Covers they're less. What's the word I'm looking for? They're less taxing. Cover you can kind of get on and think about for a little bit, and then do your image and enjoy it. But like sequential pages take far more like dedication and like long-term thought. So it may have coincided that that's when I was doing that, when I took on some Star Wars covers. I definitely the reason to do covers is to keep your kind of name out there. I definitely did that when I started Injection, for example. I was working on Injection and I was taking whatever cover work was offered to me because I didn't want. I think people can easily forget about you, so it's good to have your name out there in some way. But these days, it's really, I'm very fortunate that I don't have to take cover work unless I'm actually like into doing it. But it's entirely possible there that what you're talking about is when I was doing a little bit more cover work. Because I would say probably do 4 covers a month. So I was probably maybe doing a little bit more than that, just to pay the bills and stuff, and not get and because I couldn't really get involved in anything that was more work than that. So where was I? Cheers makes a lot of sense. I asked, oh yeah, that issue in the old apartment was great. Oh, thanks, man. Cheers, Jacob. Oh, old Harry. Hey, man. What should I Google to see one of my pinups? That's a good question, actually. There's, I think, All-Star Batman issue 3. I think that was a pinup cover because it's just a shot of Batman and Duke. What else? What's just basically a pinup? So variant covers are generally just pinups because I don't know what the story is in a lot of cases, so I'll just do a shot of the character. A lot of the commissions are effectively pinups too because there's no story there really. I'm brown blank to be honest. Yeah, I guess I always try and have a story element in them. Yeah, sorry, I'm kind of running blank. Who else is talking here? Ali Cat. Hey Ali, how's it going? Tooth, I do good gritty scenes. Thank you very much. Tathanor, let's go. How long did it take you to come up with the cool ideas up for the skull plates on those Punisher covers? I always look forward to those. Thank you very much. That was. Let's see if I can remember. I was working on the first cover, and Marvel had asked for something very specific. I think they wanted, because Becky Cloonan was writing it. I'm not sure if Steve was down as the artist yet, but they definitely wanted. They wanted a kind of a younger Punisher, not that kind of as different to the Fury to the Garth Ennis one. And I think they even wanted him to be sexy. I can't really remember now; it's been a while, but I remember kind of doing it, and I was working with Jordi Belair on the covers, and she had suggested like doing something very different, and like I'm all for doing something different, but the editors had specifically asked for like something. If the editor asks for something, I definitely try and deliver on that. But Jordi had a good point, so I remember I just did something very different. I did a cover. It was just like a skull with a red stripe over it, and in the stripe were the eyes. I mean, actually, I'm pretty sure even Jordy had had that kind of rough doodle like that, and I worked off that. And I just pushed for. I said, hey, look, I'm just thinking maybe something like this, and they really liked it, which was great because again, I balked at the idea of not doing what I was asked. And that was great, and I was very happy. I'm like, okay, so now what I'm going to do for the next one, and I kind of, from then on, I said, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a skull in every cover, but what I want to do is not show Frank Castle because I think he's scarier the less you see him. The more you see him, then he just becomes like a guy. So I made a point of, well, you don't really need to see him if I have the skull in the cover. So I made a point of making sure that the skull was always something you saw. It didn't necessarily need to be like very obvious, but if I could maybe have the Punisher in it somewhere, but have him kind of be obscured to some degree. I would then see whatever each issue was about, and I would kind of see what way can I, one, obscure Punisher, and two, put the cover, or sorry, put the skull in there. And by making those, because I was doing injection at the time and having a lot of creative freedom there, it was kind of nice to give myself some rules to restrict me. If that makes sense. So yeah, I just basically give myself like a brief that I had to meet every month, and that's what I like to. If I'm going to do a regular cover job, I try to do that. I'm doing the same thing with the Dead Man Logan covers now. It's specifically 3 colors. I can only use the format. It's a specific shape. I have to stick to that. So I have to find a way of getting the story in there, and working with just those 3 colors. I can't really do that on like variant covers, whatever. But if I do get to do a regular series, I'm just doing that on another book now for another publisher. So I've created my rules, as it were. Anyway, I was blabbing on there. Sorry. What am I using here to do the washes? This is a water pen. Yeah, Chi. It's effective. It's a Pentel color brush, and I don't fill it in here because I'm using Indian ink. I've just diluted Indian ink in some water. Indian ink would be, what I would use to do my blacks here. So yeah, so it would be Indian ink, but I dip it in it rather than having it in here because what it ends up doing is it clogs up the mechanism here. So instead of like having it in here, I just dip it and so dip and wash. Deathler, thanks for going into so much detail, particularly the one with the explosion in the desert where the flames made a rough skull. The constellation was like 2. Thanks. I knew, so for the one in the fire in the desert, I knew that story was going to deal with how Frank knew this other character from his time in the Gulf. So I started thinking of Gulf War imagery, and I remember being a kid when the Gulf War was happening, and you'd see stuff in the news, and I just remember oil fires was something that really kind of really stuck out to me. So I kind of looked at some photos of those oil fires that were where they're shooting out from the ground, and I thought, oh well, if there was 4 of them, they'd be like the teeth and the skull, and they could make this big cloud of skull. And then I do have to commend the editors for being so game, because some editors at other companies would not be as willing to let me kind of try that out. And the star one, I mean, I was just kind of given the scenario. I think the editor suggested the scenario, and it just was just. Sometimes I have to say the Punisher covers. Sometimes the ideas came to me really easily. Not all of them, but definitely some of them were like, boom, like solid image. Did I know cover's been amazing? Thanks so much. Cheers. Yeah, they're definitely not getting as much love as the Punisher ones, admittedly, but I'm enjoying them, and I really like the book and the creators. Give me a second. I'm just gonna blow my nose away from the microphone. Don't worry. Right. I can breathe again. Right. I don't know if I watched Warren's Castlevania series. I know swamped with injection. Well, I'm not swamped with injection at the moment. Actually, I will be getting back to it. But have I watched it? No. Screw Warren. Who cares? Who cares? Guy gets enough bloody attention. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, I actually haven't. I've only watched the first episode of the new series. I kind of didn't want to. I didn't want to just blow through it all. But I watched all the first season. I really liked it, and I don't really watch anime. Not that I won't. I just kind of it's just been never been a thing I did a lot of. But I quite liked it. I don't know what anime fans would say about it, like, because it's a Western anime, isn't it? It's not like technically an anime, but it certainly seems to match the feeling of them. But yeah, I really like it, and it wouldn't necessarily be something I'd be all for. But I mean, I probably wouldn't have watched it unless Warren. Unless Warren was doing it. But no, I think it's pretty class, I have to say, and some really classic like Warren lines in there. I've never been a big anime fan, but the series is really OTT and fun. Great. Let's see. Do a chance to adapt to any existing franchise into comic. What would it be? Probably Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Yeah, I think so. I think it was somebody asked me that on a recent stream and I couldn't think of anything, but then all of a sudden, yeah. DS9 probably. Depend on the franchise too, though. I think it's just stuff that I would never think of doing, but if somebody put the question in my head, I'd be like, huh. Or maybe like something like The Americans, something espionage. Watching something called Counterpart right now, and then I'm like, oh, I'd love to draw this. Do interiors on a big DC book, something on my bucket list, having done Deadpool, Ring, etc. Marvel, or is it hard to go back from being your own boss in an indie? That's a very good question. It is hard to go back from being your own boss on an indie, I'll admit. But I have a really good relationship with Marvel. When they ask me to do something, they ask me to do what I do, pretty much. Wolverine's a little different, because that book already existed, and they needed help getting it out. So it was kind of like less of a, it was a dream gig to get to do Wolverine, but at the same time it wasn't like, quote unquote, my Wolverine. But I'm getting to do something at the moment which is definitely like something I'm more invested in. There's not a whole lot of DC characters I'm big into, admittedly. Batman, definitely. Superman. There's just a lot more at Marvel that I like that would appeal to me, but that's not to say there's nothing at DC. And it depends on how I feel like I'll be treated. And I know at least at Marvel that I'll be treated well. I just haven't done enough. I've done very little stuff at DC, so I just I don't know everybody there as well as I know at Marvel. And the last thing you want to be doing when you're like doing a project for somebody is trying to justify what you do. That can happen sometimes when you're doing a project at a different publisher. You're like, look, I know what I'm doing. I do it all the time. Just let me do it, and I'll go and do it. What I don't want to be doing is trying to justify my decisions all the time, and it's not like Marvel just say like, "I'll do whatever you want. We don't care." They do care, and they do want to be. They get involved, but at the same time, I feel that they definitely let you do what it is you're supposed to be doing. Like I'm doing something for Marvel at the moment that I was already working on before Wolverine, so I'm back on it now, and it's just fun. I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to do something cool with a writer I really like. And I'm getting to have as much authorship over it as I want, which is really what I'm looking for, Not necessarily looking to do a stint on a character. I'm looking for a sense of authorship in that. I'm feeling I'm having that on this project. Let's see. But what would I like to do? I'd love to do a proper Batman book. I got to do those short stories for All-Star Batman, which was really, really fun, but it felt like a kind of bit of a tease, I've always thought Captain Scar, that would be an amazing comic. It's kind of Spanish and sci-fi. That's fair enough. I wouldn't want to draw it, but I could totally see how that would work. Let's see. Will it be something we Marvel and oh I see, right, yeah, the thing we do for Marvel. Yes. Well, no. It may be something. The thing I'm doing at Marvel would not be something you would marvel at. If you're replying, it's a Captain Marvel thing. No. It is not that. I won't say what it is, but I will say what it's not. Much more of the DC characters, but read more Marvel and Image over the last decade because a lot of the DC are very samey for a while, almost like they had a house style. Well, they definitely do have a house style. I don't think that's controversial for me to say. And I wouldn't be into that stuff myself. I was always more Marvel kid because that's the stuff I had more access to when I was young. But so I know a lot more of those characters than I do DC ones. But I know plenty of DC characters. But I would say I wouldn't be into a lot of the art on those books, which has stopped me from really reading a lot of them in recent years. You know, the right book, the right writer, or be getting to write it myself. Certainly, I wouldn't just like outright say no to something just because of the publisher or anything. That would be very silly. I'm just concentrating on this right now. Don't mess it up, Shelby. Don't mess it up. But back to that question as well. It is tough to like do whatever you want in an image book and then go back to a publisher sometimes. But I like balancing creator owned and work for hire. Personally, like I think doing a bit of both keeps me on my toes in a good way. Oh, sorry, I missed all the questions here. Who's something new from me at Marvel? Can I say which character, or is it all secret? It is all secret, Mounted Chi. It has not been announced, so I cannot say what it is. But it's definitely a character I really like, so I'm happy. It's mini-series basically I'm doing. I'd like to see one animated series era Batman with all the Browns and angular characters. Well, I mean, when I was doing Batman, I was trying to make it all angular and moody, so I would do that regardless, or try. It's a street level and not Ghost Rider or Daredevil. That's we're all to know, right? Okay, yeah, that's accurate. It's street level and not Ghost Rider or Daredevil. If it was Daredevil, I'd be screaming from the rooftops. Let me see. If I was asked to go and deliver one class on drawing comics, what would I teach? And what was the thing I want to get across? Theory or practical? That's a big question. Okay, let me think about that. Well, I don't think I'd teach like how to draw. I just wouldn't find that a particularly interesting class to teach. Or how to draw cars or anything like that. That's just not. I think if I was going to do it. Well, I do a writing class and or I have done writing classes, and they kind of accumulate into working on layouts. That is probably something that I would work on more. I think it's fundamental to the storytelling, and I think it's something maybe a lot of people don't necessarily think of. So I would probably do like a layouts class, something like that. Because, like, you know, buildings and cars and people and stuff, I think everybody finds their way how to do all those things. But I think teaching not necessarily how to draw, but how to think, or to think about what you're drawing, is more important than necessarily the fundamentals of, like, you know, ellipses and stuff like that. That makes sense? Normally the artists are allowed to draw, also write the series they draw. It's not that normal. Sorry, who's asked that? Meltachi. It's not that normal. The first time I got to do it was on Fury, and I've gotten offers to do it since, which is great. But if anything, I tend to get asked now to write and draw something. I don't get asked to write something. People still want me to draw too, which is fair enough. But I can only really draw one thing, and I have a commitment to injection that's more important really than anything else. But, you know, it's not that, well, one, I think publishers aren't mad about it in general because it slows, you know, writing and drawing are two different jobs. It slows the artist down. It's better having a team of people working on stuff. Production can move faster that way. But, you know, when it works, it's gold. You know, I think it is hard for artists to be taken seriously as writers, even though, you know, some of the best books are by writer artists. But, you know, you have to kind of prove yourself. I was lucky that Will Moss offered me that Fury story I did for choosing sides. I think he just really liked my work on injection, and I think he felt that I know that I had a bit more in me than just drawing pictures. So I really appreciate that. But I was also writing a graphic novel at the time, so that that helped. Because I wasn't drawing that graphic novel. Pardon me. Super Mecha Death Couch. How's it going, man? It's Tathanor. Daredevil is such an opportunity. That series must be the longest run in its history. I love the twist of Nizarski issue 1. I just got it today, so please don't say anything because I have not read it yet. I will read it after I'm finished here. I am super jealous that Zdarsky is getting to do Daredevil. And when I heard rumors that he was on the book, and people were telling me that his pitch for the series was like brilliant. So I am very, very, very curious to see what he does. I'm not at all jealous. No, sir. Not jealous at all. Nope. Not jealous in the slightest. Am I still talking about that? I wouldn't think of the comic as a movie scene necessarily. Like the yeah, I guess it's not a bad way of thinking of it. Like with anything with a page, you have I think every page has its most important moment, and that is a panel on a page. But it's about the sequence. You know, it's not necessarily. Sometimes the thing that's important isn't the most obvious thing. Which is why, like, it's interesting. You can have one book where the action scene has the biggest panels, and then you have another book where the action stuff is the smallest panels. I remember going from Thunderbolts to Northlanders. I saw how it was more interesting. Where if somebody punched somebody, to me that would be a bigger panel. On Northlanders, it was the opposite. The establishing shot was the big panel, and the action shot was actually pretty like low key as regards action, and I actually really liked that. So there's different ways of doing it all. The movie comparison is happens lots because it's another visual medium, but there's a lot of different ways to do it, Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of. This is now fully finished and inked, I would say. But what I'm gonna do is some touch-ups first, and then I'm going to add a little splash of colour, I think. Just cleaning up some little stray lines here. Oh, thanks, Bensk. Yeah, I would say that, but that's not a bad bit of advice, I should say, actually. If you want to draw comics, get used to drawing suits, because you're going to have to do it a lot. Sorry if I keep catching that side of my little Wookiee face. Do I like stuff like Deadly Class getting a TV show and getting excited about the prospect of Netflix knocking on my door for injection? Someone's already knocked on the door for injection. It's with some people right now. Be nice to get an update on that. But yeah, look, I'm not gonna lie, be class. It's so cool seeing all that stuff happening for Deadly Class, especially seeing I've seen the pilot episode, and then I've seen the animated sequence they did for tied to Wes's artwork was so cool. It's definitely leaning into its influences a lot, which is great to see. And it's great seeing Wes get the acknowledgement he deserves. So yeah, that's really cool. And I like the show, I have to say. It's what I've seen so far is really cool. But yeah, injection has been optioned, so hopefully there'll be more on that in the coming year. I would say I'm more interested in seeing stuff like that happen than say more Marvel stuff, which I love all that stuff, but you know, I know the creators really do well on stuff that they own, so it's always really cool to see. Right. Yeah, Super Mega Death Couch. It's difficult to. Yeah, I can rant away on this side, and I can appreciate it. It's hard for you to get across what you mean. And the G, it looks incredible. Love how love how you handled the shadow in his pants leg and his coattails. Thanks so much. If you go back and look at that reference photo now, I wonder how different it looks. Or I'll pop it in here again. Maybe some people are just tuning in. This is essentially based off. I just started drawing this like super quick, so I was looking at an image somebody made up of Benedict Cumberbatch in Cumberbatch. Or is it? Yeah, in a kind of classic Holmes outfit, which is kind of the feeling I'm going for with Vivek. But so that's the photo that kind of like I have in my head, or I was basing off of, I should say, sorry, when working on this. So just to show how I tend to kind of like look at reference and use it, whereas I look at it and I kind of ingest it, but I don't let it overpower the actual drawing. I try not to, at least. Okay. You get first refusal on starring in the adaptation, right? Well, naturally, Tathnor, you know, I'll talk to my agent about my appearance fee and whatever. Okay. So you're going to make some big money then. Nice, congrats. Well, that's all very, it's all dependent on what happens, really. Nothing's guaranteed. So I'm just going to change this water. It's a bit messy. Okay. Yeah, well, so I hope you can see what I went with at the beginning and how I changed it, you know, so it's not completely beholden. I'm going to go with this. And I'm not really used to working in watercolor, so hopefully this will be okay. very light with this because I'm not really used to working with watercolor. Death Note is for an upcoming convention. No, this is. I took this commission. Actually, this is something I owe somebody a long time. Something now that I think of it. I promised this to a friend a long time ago, so I owe him. Oh, thanks, Cassie. Cheers. Now you can hear the terror in my voice because I'm not used to walking like this. Let me get a. The hell is purple again? It was blue and red, isn't it? Did I say I was appearing in Scotland? I said I was going to be at Dunfermline in January, February, March. The end of March. There we go, purple. And I will be, during the summer, I will be at another one. But I didn't say where that was. Crap, it's black. I'll do that. Sometimes these things move slow. Super Mecha Death Couch. Sometimes it moves slow. Definitely more practice at this. Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy. Oh, you're enjoying the newsletter. Thank you. I'm glad. I actually put a good bit of work into it, so I'm glad. It's good to know people are enjoying it. It's different from like social media where you put something out and you have no idea if you literally don't get a response. So I'm like, is that okay? Is that okay? Did I do okay job there? So thank you. Yeah, I clearly need more practice of this, but have I ever been asked to do character designs for a publisher like Kelby's Captain Marvel, etc.? Would I want to? Sure, I'd like to. I've done some, but generally for a book I'm doing, I did redesigning Fury. I designed Boomerang designs from my run on Thunderbolts. Designed Toxin. Something recently too. Oh yeah, that was kind of on the fly. Yeah, I would. I like to do character designs, but that reminds me, I have to send something to somebody. Thanks for that. Okay, serious question. What can us writer types do to make life easier when writing comic scripts? I.e., do you ever see scripts? In fact, this is going to be basically impossible, and what makes it that way? Yeah, every time I get a worn out script, I kid because I love. I would say my biggest pet peeve is writers changing script writing order number effectively. So, say, a character, say Dave and Jane, and Dave walks into a room and says something to Jane. Jane goes, "Oh, what are you talking about?" The next panel, it should be Dave that talks next, not Jane. So Jane doesn't come back and go like, "Hey, what were you talking about there?" Dave goes like, "No, answer my question." If that makes sense, because if if the second character talks next to the next panel, then that means I need to switch the character positions around. and that requires breaking the 180-degree rule, which is something that can be done, but I find is very, to use a word, problematic. It could be a massive pain in the hole, effectively. So keep that in mind. I mean, keep in mind it's a visual medium, and that you need to make sure that you're keeping things consistent that way. And also, if it's going to be a page where there's a lot of talking, then put it in, be aware of the restraints of the medium. If it's going to be in a room with a lot of talking, then you don't want to be having a lot of panels with a lot of dialogue in it. You don't really want to be going over 11 balloons in one page. I mean, you can, it's fine, but you don't want to go too far over that. Sorry, my phone's gone a bit mad here. So yeah, just be aware that it is a visual medium, and there's only you don't have to do layouts in order to be able to figure it all out. But if that's what you need to do to start figuring things out, then that's fine too. What else can you do? I think I know colorists often talk about not knowing what the time of day is. I will say, like panel count, I personally like 5 panel pages. I don't really like going too far above it or below. Well, I don't mind going below, but above it gets more difficult. I would say what's a great help is saying the amount. Not every writer does this, nor do they have to, but saying the panel count at the top of the page. So if it's page 3, 5 panels. I know whenever I have a script that does that, now like say Warren does it, for example, but so I need to go through and do it. But if I can see it says 5 panels, then I instinctively know there's 5 moments in that panel, and if I read one, I know it's a splash page, for example. I know I need to pace myself when I'm reading it. It really helps. That's all I can think of the top of my head right now. Yeah, Tathnor, there's an action figure of that boomerang. See, I just need to do some darker values on my Indian friend here. No problem, Cassie. Sorry, I'm sorry if I'm not thinking of anything else off the top of my head here now. Tethmar, no problem. Tethmar, I'm glad to get the questions because it gives me something to kind of just chat about while drawing. Keeps me a bit entertained. So don't worry, you're more than welcome to ask questions. If anyone who does watercolors wants to point out that I'm doing this terribly, by all means, let me know. So what was your question? Have I ever lobbied a publisher to make an oversized or absolute edition of your work? As an artist seems to be desperate for stuff like that. I would love if they did that for Moon Knight, but I don't see it happening. Marvel don't do. I mean, it might happen for All Star because that book did well, but it's not mine as such. You know, I just doing a backup story on that. If they did an absolute, they'd probably take out my story. I haven't lobbied for them to do it on Moon Knight because they had a very successful Moon Knight run after hours on there. But and Moon Knight was the first book I really did that was like you know, I mean, I'd love if they do like an omnibus of all the Thunderbolts work I did because I was really proud of that and it was a really cool book and a cool team. And I've just basically done a deluxe version of my injection run, which is really the most important thing I've done for me. So I've been wanting to do that for a long time, and I finally got to do it. And it came out a couple of months ago, or 3 or 4 months ago. So if you're interested, I would definitely recommend that because I put that together myself with phonographics, and I'm really proud of it. At Marvel, it would need to be something that's over 6 issues, and the longest thing I've done there is pretty much that. Moon Knight. I would love to do that for Moon Knight, or even an artist's edition, or but it's not really if I lobby for it; it's if the readers lobby for it. If Marvel thinks it will sell, then they will do it. It's really what it comes down to. Okay, good. I'm glad that was help, Cassie. Esperus, hi, I saw today of an Uncanny X-Men variant character cover. Can't wait to see who you draw. Cover is done. I'm super happy with it. To be sure, is the best tease I can give you. Guys, this is actually done. I'm finished. So I'm going to call it a day. If you enjoyed this, check in next week. I'll be doing another commission on Monday. It might be the last one I do for a while. I'm not sure, but I definitely will be around next week. So just do a little close up of that so you can see. You can see I just kind of added some color to the bottom of his shadow and let it disappear. You know what I'm going to do is I will add a little bit of color onto his little yogi doodle here, but you don't really need to see that. Just give a bit of tint to this. Okay, so now it's done. So thanks a million, guys. Thanks for keeping me company while I do this, and sure, I guess I'll talk to you next week. See you later.